Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Council, City of Prospect for Tuesday the 16th of December. Now, I'd like to acknowledge that the land we meet on is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge that the Kaurna people are the custodians of the Adelaide region and their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the living Kaurna people today. I read you the Council prayer. We humbly bow before thy throne of mercy, our God, our Heavenly Father, and seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the welfare of our city and the peace and prosperity of our land. In the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Please be seated.
Yes, Mark.
Okay. Declaration by members. Do we have any declarations for any of the meeting agenda? Councillor Barnett.
Item 19.4, and that's the one that's discussing the lockdown matter.
Keep moving. I believe we have Neil Ponsonville. Attendance so far, very good to see. Confirmation of business of the ordinary meeting of Council for Tuesday, 25th of November. Somebody like to move that we accept it. Councillor Stanton, would you like to speak to them?
No, fine, thanks.
Seconder, Councillor Barnett, would you speak to it? No. Any further debate? All those in favour? Yes, carried. Thank you. Mayor's report is, as you have it before you on page 1918 to 1919. Check all that. Be a bit happening. And delighted to open the Greek pastry shop on Prospect Road, another addition to the street. Fantastic little shop. So there's a couple of new places in place over the last 3 weeks, I think, which is really exciting. So tell your friends, promote them on your Facebook sites and whatever else. Let people know that it's there, as well as all the other businesses. I think I'd like to move my report as presented. Councillor Lee, would you speak to it?
Thank you.
Seconder? Second. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Group, would you like to speak to it? All those, any further debate? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Member reports from council reps and local government or community organisations. Do we have a report from our EHR reps for West Care? We don't have a West Care rep. Oh, yes, we did. Yeah, no meetings. No verbal reports. Petitions nil, deputations nil, motions and notice we have one. Councillor Harris, recording of council workshops on page 1920. Harris, would you like to read out your motion in so move?
Only point one. After consideration of the number of views, level of interest and overall benefit to the council and its community, City of Prospect will no longer record and upload council workshops to the internet.
You speak it any further?
Yeah, I just briefly, unless I need to reply, I want to emphasise that I'm only talking regards the workshops. It doesn't limit us as well if there may be a special workshop of some sort of nature that we feel it might be good to talk about it. We can still do that. We're just talking about the general Tuesday night workshops. I'm moving this motion to this because, one, some newer people here we did have, and coming up at another stage, some of the financial side of it. But apart from one mystery workshop we had, pretty well the workshops weren't that big a thing to look at. But the numbers, I have to be honest, I can't think of George's other name that was sitting over there that was helping, and it might not even be George, but it is George, that explained some of the amount of people that watched it and listened to it and things like that. The other thing that I feel, and personally I don't think we should have cameras anywhere, but I accept that because this is the main body of the council and we discuss things that people may be interested in and want to hear. But the workshop, I feel it's a bit more personal in respect of, and I'll only point to myself as opposed to other people, I might want to say something that might be a bit silly or feel it's not just right, feel embarrassed to be saying it in front of a camera so other people, I feel more open to be able to discuss things, and then other people say to me, look, Alan, that's totally wrong, or it's not right, or something like that. Otherwise, I think you get held back. So I feel it gives us a freer, better opportunity to discuss things, to ask questions, and get whatever answers the return. And unless I've got a reply, that's about all I wish to say at this point.
Okay, second.
Councillor
Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I'll second that for safe discussion.
Okay, thank you. Is that all you wish to say to it? Get one chance.
Yes, that's correct. I thought the amendment. Just trying to get on to the iPad. Yes, I just think it was a really bit of an experiment, I think, and I think that in the spirit of council workshops, that which we, would like to have free that, and also the cost. I think until the cost comes down, until it's the delivery to the public's improved, then I think we can just stick with what was originally going to happen as I understand that was going to be council.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett.
Yeah, just as a new member of the council, looking back on the old workshops was quite useful for me, so being able to see how people conducted themselves and what was said. However, I do recognise there is a cost involved in that. But what I would ask, if we're not going to record the workshops, that any presentation material be forwarded to elected members to refresh if you can't attend the workshop.
Thanks. Councillor Brooke.
Thank you. Look, I probably just have two questions, if I can, to the Chair. First question is, I understand that we were going to have a report back to us, which was requested from the last council, which I thought was actually going to deal with the matters of reporting that from workshops, including views and costs, particularly with the software upgrade that was needed. I'm just finding myself having to answer this question without having the benefit of that knowledge. So I'm just wondering whether that report was likely to answer those questions or not.
Certainly a report being prepared. Just Director.
Through the Chair, the staff are currently working on the report. The report aimed at look at what are the efficiencies that we can make in order to deliver the video conferencing taping of council meeting. There are three key issues that we need to consider that will take longer than January or February timeframe that we originally planned. The first one is the feasibility of the NBN link. So council has not, we're looking at what is the feasibility of NBN to provide a commercial link for the prospect that's currently under negotiation and discuss with NBN. And also, what is the situation about housing the base needs hardware? Currently it's sitting with CTTG. We're currently undergoing a shared services review. So the cost of that will need to be taken into consideration. And finally, I guess one of the most important pieces is the release of the base need software. The cost efficiency will come when the software is upgraded. So there will be a reduced staff time in terms of the video quality. So that will not be released from the base need probably about February now, we were told. So the costing of this, providing this service will not be February, March, or even a bit later.
Okay. Personally, I wouldn't be uncomfortable waiting until that time to get the report before I make a decision. I just think if we're making a decision on the basis that we don't want to do it, that's one matter. That's not what this motion is moving. It's making a decision on the basis of views, level of interest, level of benefits. I just don't know if we've had an opportunity to have that conversation. The second question was when we moved to record meetings and workshops, generally it was a formal motion of council that allowed us to get to that point. I would have thought this would require a decision motion.
New council.
Oh, sorry, okay. That was just a trying to turn anyone up apart from myself. That was really just to make sure we're from the process. Look, I think ultimately, I would certainly want to vote advocating for the recording of workshops. I still believe the recording of workshops is useful. It's a public meeting anyway, it's not a meeting confidence. Whatever we say, if there's one person in the gallery or 5 people watching, it should be public. But from a transparency point of view, I'm really supportive. I feel this is a bit of a backward step, but I also sympathise with the issue of cost in terms of how much it is costing. But I would just prefer to have the full report before I make a decision. I don't think at this point I'll be supporting it, but I think I'll be in the minority. Had we had the report, I would have probably voted to not necessarily record workshops on basis of the cost. I stand in the Commission.
Thanks, Councillor.
Thanks, and through the Chair, I'm just interested to know, with this report, will it separate the costs of recording workshops to council meetings? So what I'm trying to work out is if we don't record workshops, is there a substantial saving of itself?
Through the Chair, from the report that we presented to Council back in 23rd September, there are certain costs in terms of licensing. They are a fixed cost. In terms of link from City of Prospect to CTDG, that is a fixed cost. So regardless whether we take the workshop or not, there are certain level of fixed costs. That is the area where we are looking at what are the efficiencies we can gain, what are the different ways we can deliver this to reduce the cost. There are certain elements of fixed costs. License, for instance, the license we have to purchase for safety.
Thank you. Any further speakers? We've spoken to the motion. Just from the Chair, the staff informed me that the last 2 workshops have been viewed 2 and 5 times respectively. So I would have thought workshops have a currency to them, like they're relevant only for a certain period of time, and if that's what we've seen in the last week or 2 or 3, it's not good. Certainly in the lead up to the election, there was a lot more interest, and I think there's a bit of controversy around some of them, so there's a lot of interest in a couple of particular meetings. But the signals aren't good for popularity, certainly, for workshops. So I take Councillor Group's point that we haven't seen the cost analysis. The motion talks about number of views, level of interest and overall benefit. I think on those grounds alone, if it comes to needing to vote, I'll be voting that we stop recording workshops. I don't think the effort that the staff put in on our behalf is worth it for the number of views that we're getting. And I haven't heard from the community a lot of interest in the workshops. I have at the council meetings, but not necessarily the workshops. So I've picked up a perception that the community thinks they have as much value. So just my view, Councillor Stanley.
Stanley, just with regard to those views, 2s and 5s, does the workshop have to be viewed all the way through to register a view, or is it just a click and link?
I think it's just a quick.
Yep.
You a second. I think that comes up to the stat.
Yeah.
Any further debate? Back to you, Councillor Harris, to sum up, if you need to.
Just because people raised a couple of things there, I will say one of the council meetings we had, and for the newer councillors on board, I'd never looked at it, and then we had a council member, priest, and we had discussion of him the night, not understanding how to do it. I think I had about 30 views in one night trying to find one little bit, so, and I didn't find it, I might add. Just the last point of the discussion part that I had in front, and I did it, that if people are interested in something in the workshop and things, they still advertise it the same way. And so if there's something, a house, Main North East Road, a park in Prospect Road or something, people, it's no closed shop, so they're welcome to come along. I might be talking myself, but because now I know at least unless I fall over dead. I'm here 4 years, so I feel far more comfortable not having a recording at the moment of workshops. Thank you.
That concludes the debate. All those in favour of the motion? All those against? It is carried. Okay. Thank you. Now, moving on. Questions with notice nil. Questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? No questions without notice? What's this? Councillor Harris.
Yes, just one question. 2 comments to me, plus what I raised a couple of months ago now on Barker Gardens, where the beautiful Christmas lights and stuff is, or not light pictures are. Are we still going to do anything about the broken box there, the meter? That's about 3 months ago now that I raised that. And people go to look, and this is why 2 times it's come up to me. And, you know, it's a bad view for a main
So
park.
the question, what's the status of it?
Yeah, well, a couple of months now, 3 months plus.
Director, is that your bag?
Through the mail, I'll have to take that on notice. I know that it's damaged, but I'll get back to you with the time frame.
Thank you.
Just to finish that one question, my real question goes to when something happens, can it be fixed? That's really the question.
Yeah, it's been out of action for quite a while.
Over 3 months.
3 months.
First time that I know of. No more questions, sorry.
Any further questions about notice? No? Right, moving on. Protocol. We have a number of reports tonight, 6. So I'll just call them over. If you wish to pull them out, then please indicate that way. 19.1, the elected members' records management policy. Does anybody wish to withdraw that one? No. 19.2, Eastern Health Authority first budget review, 14-15. Anybody wish to withdraw that? Councillor.
Yes, I need to, no, I can just go out, I don't need to pull it out.
Oh, you don't need to. No, no. No. Pensioning concessions, 19.3. Does anybody wish to withdraw that? Councillor Bowman was first. 19.4, Australian Local Government Women's Association, we need to pull it out for a nomination. So I'll pull it out from the chair. 19.5, I wish to pull out. And 19.6, Councillor Harris wishes to pull out. Okay. So, have someone move 19.1 and 19.2? Councillor Barnett. Seconded by Councillor Lee. All those in favour? Against? They carry. Okay. Move to pension concessions, 19.3, page 1941. So, Councillor Bowman, just a brief reason why you withdrew it.
I just wanted to clarify if the stance that Prospect is taking is unique, or is all councils taking a different stance?
So I can answer that from the chair. This is an LGA strategy endorsed by the boards under every council. So
Will every council be taking the same stance?
don't know that. They'll be dealing with it in this round of meetings, I suspect. The LGA strategy have just given to me by the staff because they wanted councils to deal with it now to get the insert into the next quarterly rates bill to go out. Which is, I imagine staff are putting together now to get out in January or so. Very early January, yeah.
And again, I don't know if I can ask this, but does the concession of rates extend to religious institutions and sporting clubs or those kind of things as well?
We are asked to grant concessions to those, but not under the federally funded concessions. They are concessions we have discretion over ourselves. So we can choose whether to give those churches concessions or not. And state and federal government properties don't pay rates at all. They're exempt. Okay.
The decision is to, the pensioners will have to pay, forgo that concession, but the religious organisations currently are able to keep.
Well, that's a decision, well, just correct me wrong, I believe that's a decision of the council, isn't it? So, yeah. So we can choose to withdraw those concessions or increase those concessions, and we already have a history of providing those concessions, which the staff can advise us of, and they're for kindies and all sorts of things, not just churches.
And knocking some back.
And you're correct, we don't approve them all. Okay. Yeah, okay, so that's some good questions. Are there any other questions on this one? Councillor Evans.
Just on number 4 of the recommendation, so is every local government organisation writing a separate letter to their residents that are eligible?
Again, I don't know the answer to that. This is the template report that's been suggested by the LGA. As President, I'll give you some background as to why the staff are recommending this. Part of the issue with the withdrawal of the concession is that the state government have elected to keep it for this year, so nobody's worried. No one's going, oh, so what? Keep hearing you say something, it's just a buzzing sound. The only way to let people know that they're going to cough up $180 more next year is to let them know somehow. If we do nothing, they will find out when they get their rates bill. And it'll be our increase, which might be, say, 3% CPI or whatever it is, plus $190. So if we don't notify them beforehand and they don't save up or whatever they've got to do, they'll be at our front counter in shock and dismay and anything else, saying, well, we'd expect them to find the money from. So the LGA said, councils, you've got to have a think about how you communicate to your residents that this will be withdrawn. So they're recommending item 4. Sorry, Director.
Through the Chair. Number 4 is staff's recommendation. Staff believe that just on recommendation 3 may not be sufficient because there may be some pensioners and concessions holders that do not, they may have paid their rates in full, so they may not receive that. So the 4th is actually a staff recommendation.
Oh, that's on top, okay.
On top of that.
Yeah.
If I could,
Thank you for clarifying.
just some advice on how
I
we,
understand, sorry, Councillor.
just some advice on how to speak against number 4, just to amend the resolution.
I can take it in parts. So you can speak against part 4, and then I can ask you to select, vote for part 1, then part 2, then part 3, then part 4. And if you're against that part, you can choose to vote against just that part.
If I can be afforded the chance to speak against it.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Any further questions before I ask for a mover? Councillor Harris.
Yeah, and I think I got the answer, but I wasn't sure. When I looked on the little machine, with the 3 and 4, my question is, one of them said it was going to cost so much money, and the other one was less money. I understand, I just didn't know whether that was the reason, 3 and 4. Thank you. No more questions from me.
Thank you. There's no more questions. We'll ask for a mover, so we can start the debate. Councillor Barnett, wish to speak to it?
I think the report is, and some of the questions that have been asked have given us the sufficient cause to move it.
Seconder. Councillor Harris, wish to speak to it?
Yeah, just briefly, I particularly, and not just age pensions, but any form of pension, I feel terrible telling people, in this case residents, that we're not going to support, or the government's not going to cover the cost. The federal government's going backwards. But I'm supporting it because nothing's worse than if someone cops a bill at some stage and looks at it, and it happened through the state government here with the increase in the water business or things like that, that I feel it's important that we let people know that that's going to happen, and either then they contact our people through HACC and that, and can put a case and try and talk to them or something. I'd hate to see it day one in the letterbox saying 194 or whatever the case is extra. So I fully support that we notify, and when it comes, I will most probably support both 3 and 4. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'm supporting the recommendation as it is.
Thank you. Any further speakers?
We're taking it in part?
Sorry, Councillor Bowman, you have the right to be the next speaker, given you withdrew it.
Okay,
And yes, I will take it in parts, Councillor. But, sorry, I'll take the vote in parts, but not the debate in parts. Otherwise I'll be here all night.
okay. Do I have to speak to it?
You don't have to speak at this opportunity, no. We reserve the right for the withdrawer to speak after the mover and seconder. In fact, you could have moved it. I should have asked you if you wanted to move it. Apologies, I didn't. No, you can, if you're not speaking now, you can speak later. Councillor Evans.
Thanks, Mayor. If I can just perhaps summarise my issues with point 4, it's that I certainly support the notion of advising residents. That's entirely appropriate. The issue with part 4, I think, is it goes a little bit above and beyond. We're talking about $1,100. That's part treatment of a narrow street. That's an AFI program. That's all sorts of various things we could do with that money. That effectively what we're doing is we're advising residents twice. So we're slipping a notice in their quarterly notice bill to say, here you go, this is the situation with pensioner concessions. We're giving them that information, and then we're writing to them again. So they're receiving 2 pieces of correspondence over the course of a small period of time. That potentially is excessive and potentially, in my view, a waste of council money. Certainly if they are not receiving that quarterly notice, we should write to them and we should advise them. But the idea that they receive 2 pieces of correspondence next to each other that's costing council money, on one hand we're taking away their concession, and on the other hand we're flogging them the cost of telling them that we're taking it away twice. So certainly slipping it in a notice I think is appropriate. And for those that don't receive a quarterly notice, by all means, let's write to them a letter. Just
want to amend it that way?
Yes, happy to amend it that way.
Do you want to ask a question if that's possible first?
certainly, would it be possible to amend the resolution in that?
Certainly possible to amend it. I thought you asked whether we could identify the residents who are eligible for a concession that have already paid their rates and therefore won't get the item 3 notice. Director, can you answer that?
It certainly is possible. There will be sorting out of which are there will be a body of work to actually identify instead of just a clear category of all pensioners or residents under pensioner concession. There will be a body of work that the rate staff will have to go through which of the pensioner concessions, property pensioner concessions are paid on quarterly basis and who have been paid in full. It is possible.
It's possible, okay. So, tricky but possible. If you wanted to amend it, Councillor, you would insert the words after 2015, all countries who have already paid their rates in full. I'll just get the words up first. Comma, something like that. Someone just check the grammar on it.
David, can I ask a question while I was checking the grammar on that? If there be any circumstance where somebody, other than not paying their rates in full, might not get a rates notice? Like I'm thinking maybe the other residents, say, concession 2015, who do not receive fully rates notice. I'm just wondering, are there any other reasons why people might not get?
I'll ask the question, Director. Would all people eligible for a rates concession either get an initial rates notice or a subsequent quarterly rates notice?
Through the Chair, we are only talking about the current eligible pensioner concessions holder. So if they have paid all their rates in full, they will no longer get any subsequent second, third, fourth installment. So the fourth resolution is to capture everybody. Alternatively, I don't know if we can actually go with number 4 instead of number 3, that we actually captured all pensioner concessions, all current pensioner concessions. We write to them, but there will be additional.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor, did I answer your question?
I just want to make sure that there's no other, not understanding the administration of how this works from an operational point of view. I just want to make sure there's no other way that people may not get a notice. We are covered because they paid in full or they get full notice.
And they want to fall between the cracks.
So can I ask a question now?
So they don't want to fall between the gaps.
Exactly right. And I just
resolve this one first.
Because that's a very specific statement. Because there's somebody who might have paid their rates on full initially, who might have paid half, and then or might have paid 3 quarters or something. So I just want to make sure we don't lose anyone in the gap.
That is where the administrative, there will be a huge administration work that needs to be done. Some may have not paid in full, but by the first quarter they have paid in full. So there will be a huge body of work that someone will need to go through and check.
Okay, all right, and I'll leave it there. So understand that this is not, the easy thing to do is to give everybody a little flyer and then all registered people a letter. Anything in between, there is a bit of risk. That's up to us to decide whether we want to take that risk to save some money. That is the purpose of Councillor Evans' amendment. I'll come back to the rest of your speech in a second. So as the mover and seconder, are you happy to incorporate the change? Councillor Barnett is the mover. Yes. Happy? Councillor Harris is the seconder. Yes or no?
Last sentence, because I'm not happy, but I'll accept it to go along.
Okay, so that I'm going to now seek leave of the meeting. If you agree, 2/3 of you agree, that will then be part of the motion. There's no need for an amendment. You will have accepted it. So all those happy to incorporate that into the motion, please indicate so. All those against? Against? Incorporated, that becomes the motion. Councillor Evans, you can resume your speech.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and in many ways that does address the large part of my concern. Just the other one on the content of the letter and on the flyer, perhaps including some information about council contacts for people with questions. It is very much, I guess, a campaign focus from the LGA, and I noticed that there isn't a lot of follow-up. So if a resident does have queries or concerns, there's no information there provided in terms of a council contact. So just something there that will bridge the gap between contact your local MP and lobby on a campaign to here's some information that we're actually providing you, and if you've got some concerns, please contact us. So
Rates officer, no, that's a good tip, and it's no need to change the motion for that one. So CEO's made a note of that. Thank you.
that was all I had.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
First of all, I'm glad that Councillor Evans has got on board with the NAPI program. There you go, bit of hope for them. But what I was going to suggest was that understand you want to save money and there's double dealings, etc. Would it be more sensible to get rid of 3 and have 4? So instead of sending the flyers, send a letter to everybody instead. And so that way it saves money, and then that way you're capturing everybody. So that's why I was desperate to address the amendment.
I'll take the question.
Yeah.
Be aware that 3 is for all ratepayers. So every single ratepayer gets that. So if we decide subsequently to change it, put the rates up to try and fund this concession somehow, which I don't think we should do, every ratepayer will know what we've done. Item 4 only goes to those with a concession, so it's a much, much smaller group.
The people who get the concession are the ones that are directly affected, so they're the ones that we need to communicate the most with. If we decide to fund the concession ourselves, then that becomes the problem, and then that's when we start communicating with the rest of the ratepayer.
Yeah, I'm not debating you, I'm just letting you know 3 and 4 do budget.
And I'm just having my say. Yeah. So for me it would make far more sense to not vote for 3 and vote for 4 instead, which means that the amendment kind of doesn't make sense.
We have to now. Thank you, Councillor Lee.
If you'd noticed me first, we could
do it. Ask if there's any other questions. Well,
I did. You wouldn't let me speak.
Councillor Lee elected not to change it because I presume if you get rid of 3, then only concession receivers who pay the rates in full get anything. Right. So 3 now is both groups get it. Councillor Group, you were next.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. In the report, and I'm not sure if I've missed this, it talks about 15% of our ratepayers receiving concessions. What does that look like in terms of whole number?
Sorry.
A number.
We've got about 10,000 rateable premises, Director. Sorry, you're going to answer.
Through the chair, the number is 1534, 1,534.
Thank you. Let's just look. Obviously, it's very disappointing that we've got $27 million. I'm just not sure after reading the report and the flyer and the letter. Sometimes it refers to 27, sometimes 27.7. It should round up right down. 7 is hard to find. So just be good to be consistent with the numbers. So maybe it's 28 million. Just in terms of some. Sorry.
So just getting CEO to double check that. Carry on.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that whatever it is, it's accurate and consistent. In terms of the flyer, I've just, I guess this is just more feedback. I'm not going to amend or suggest amendment or anything. But the term bill shock, I'm not quite sure about that. I mean, what this is effectively a rate increase because the concession is being removed. I think we'll have shocks when we read bills. I just understand. I don't think that terminology will actually resonate with many people. I'm just wondering whether that could be, in the final editing, whether that could be looked at. Because I think that's going to cause some confusion. I think it needs to be very, very clear. If you had a concession, you're not going to have it, and that's why your rates are going to go up. Stay the same, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Their rates are going to go up. So I just think that would be, just some of that language would be useful, some of the consistency of numbers I think would also be useful. I think that's all I want to say on that one. I guess, I mean, there is a conversation about, not saying what the mayor said, do we actually need to look at what concessions we provide to things? I'm not suggesting we do want to do it, but I'm suggesting it's a conversation we may need to have. I don't think we should leave with that because I do think it's a federal responsibility, not a government one to provide support for pensioners, but you know, it's going to be a hard hit for those who are struggling over the years to pay their council rates. So we may need to at least have a conversation about it. And separate to the LGA strategy, I'm keen to, as next year evolves, look at what other options we've got to lobby and to really push this issue home. I think it's an important one. We have 100, so what do you say, 1534 people who have been affected in 2 so it's very significant.
Yes. I might just speak to the Chair in response to that a little bit. There was some discussion about including the words bill shock, and I think I can be reasonably candid and say the words are inserted in there so people will sit up and read the letter and understand what's going to happen well in advance of July. What the LGA is worried about is that LGA staff and therefore councillors are going to take the brunt of someone else's decision. And if they get their bill shot, call it whatever you will, if they get this bill that says there's a 20% increase in July and they start having a go at us, we're powerless to fix it other than, I don't know what we do, because our budget's already set. So it is quite a deliberate use of words to make people take notice and go, oh, right, I don't want that. And then either write to MPs or come to us with their concerns so we can collect those and forward them to somebody somewhere that hopefully cares about this and get a resolution. So be aware that the choice of language is deliberate. We can say whatever we want, but that's why the LGA has come up with that terminology. And I emphasise that even though we've known about this since May this year, we have failed to get any traction anywhere with people understanding what this will mean. And I reckon if you said to a pensioner, do you want your rates to go up 20%, they'd be horrified. So we've got to use something to penetrate the thinking. Right, so that's why LGA has done that. In terms of, and they'll see it as a large rate rise, that was your language. And I think that's exactly what we don't want them to perceive. The rates still will go up, but it's not our, we didn't increase the rates by 20%. We'll increase it by as little as we can. So again, I think it's really important that we communicate that and help people, number one, get ready for it if nothing else can change. Number two, hopefully start telling their stories to us so we can forward them, or more directly to colleagues who make this decision, and not the state and federal. I'm not fussed who they go and talk to. I don't care what colour they go and talk to, but they should talk to them. And then we can join that campaign. So the more we can get the pensioners to start mobilising, the more we can join in. The more we start running it, I'll tell you where we'll get. That's exactly where we've got today, which is, I can show the colleagues' letters I've got back. You know, outrage from one side and dismissive from the other side. So it's not helpful. It's not going anywhere. So, yeah, speaking to the motion, I'll be voting in favour of this, at least informing ratepayers as to this and joining the campaign. To see what we can do. The federal budget is starting to be set now, November. They'll be handing it down in March. Is when it'll be locked down. So, sorry, it'll probably be locked down in January, February. The state budget is locked down in April to be delivered in May. So we haven't got long. So that's why getting it into this next quarterly bill is pretty important. And we'll see where it goes. Thank you. Councillor Bowman.
Going to speak to some of the communications that we've got. Again, I'll reiterate, sometimes having things either in a second language or diagrammatic. So some sort of infographics with a big arrow and 20% and a dollar sign on it might be more effective if you're looking to communicate something quite effectively. And are we looking to put it in the Prospect magazine? And will it come out at the same time or before that happens?
That's a question. And the second bit.
Right.
And take the question. Director, magazine.
Through the chair in relation to the magazine, we certainly can put something in relation to that, and that might be an opportunity to go a little bit more diagrammatic to get a slightly different message across to a different readership.
Yeah. Good suggestion. Thank you. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Lowe.
Further to Councillor Bowman's suggestion, maybe in the future, if we are successful in lobbying to get the concession back, it might help from a transparency point of view to send the rates notice out demonstrating the full rates that are payable with the discount, concession and what it's for, so that people have got the idea in their minds about the fact that they are getting concession. At the moment it's invisible and people will get confused about it being a... I'm guessing that's the case, yeah?
Question, are you asking if it's invisible?
Well, now I am asking whether it says on the rates notice that there is a discount.
It does. Does say pension and concession, $190.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're part of the way there. Anyway.
It doesn't. We're really constrained what we can put in our rates notices under the Act. It says your total council bill, then your concession, then your revised total. But it kind of doesn't do a subtotal. So it's on there, but it's not as obvious as it could be.
So now I have another question. Do we have any data on the breakdown of
the 1,500 people who are getting concessions and how they choose to pay their rates. So how many are paying them in full, how many are paying them taking advantage of instalment payments and those sorts of things. And how is that promoted to those people, what the opportunities are to break down that cost and yeah.
So 2 questions, Director.
Through the Chair, in terms of promotion, it is on our rate bill, that rates can be paid by 4 installments. In terms of do we have the breakdown, we don't have the regulars that say we will pay quarterly bill every year. We don't have that data. It will be through analysis. We certainly can get that. There's 1,500 of them, and yeah, we certainly can get that, but we don't have it on
Okay, thank you. Anything further?
I guess it's a third question. So do we think that offering quarterly payments is in line with most other things that we do these days can be broken down into weekly, fortnightly, monthly, which reduces the cash impact of coming up with a chunk of money. So do you think we've got enough options in place for people to pay their rates?
Yeah. Director?
Yeah, through the Chair, paying by quarterly is legislated, so we have to offer a quarterly payment. Certainly there are ratepayers that have actually arranged with us to pay like through deductions, through their bank deductions. Certainly we can have that arrangement.
Sorry, Director, haven't we signed up with the government's bill smoothing policy so we can offer weekly if someone asks for it?
Yeah, through the Chair we certainly can, and we have some arrangements through that way.
Yep. Thank you. Councillor, anything further?
No, thanks.
Yeah, that concludes us speaking. Back to Councillor Barnett if you wish to sign up for the debate.
Yes, I think there's some very good points raised, and I assume that there's going to be some consistency, for example, in the council magazine, taking the ratepayer notice as an advert, just reinforcing that what they get in their mail, they may be recognised, and some of that importance that promotes saying, and also I'm assuming that there's going to be a mid-year release about all a consistent.
I followed up on introducing new information in your summation, Councillor, but that's a very good idea, so carry on.
All right then, I'm just happy to assume some of these things in my summing up. So I think there's no need to really say anymore, other than I hope to support it, and I just hope that there'll be a big, huge, feedback by all the people affected to their local members and whatever. So, and I'm sure there'll be other associations that are there to advocate on behalf of pensioners and low-income people. So I hope the local government association will be liaising with those associations.
Thank you. That concludes debate. I'll take it in parts, as I said. All those in favour of item 1? Against? As carried. Item 2? Against? As carried. Item 3? Against? As carried. Now item 4. Against? That is carried. We note they all carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, that concludes 19.3. On to 19.4, the Australian Local Government Women's Association, page 1948.
We should declare an interest in matters it will affect me.
You're hoping.
Positively.
And I understand, Councillor, you're interested in being, there's a ... in the recommendation, that you'd be happy to be nominated to attend this conference.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Are you choosing to stay for the debate or not stay for the debate, or what are you indicating?
No, I think it's better as it involves, financial implications that I withdraw.
Okay.
Declaring interest conflict.
Yep, interest is already declared, so thank you. Okay, on page 1948, we have a recommendation. You've got the report. No doubt you've received Councillor Barnett's email as an active member of this association for some time. Are there any other nominees for the position, firstly? Someone care to nominate Councillor Barnett and move that way? Councillor Harris is the mover.
But I want to actually speak.
Well, you're the mover, so you got the floor.
Okay. I support someone going to it. I know the office, male or female. It doesn't have to be a woman that goes. A man can go. But a little bit hesitant. So I'm Christina, Councillor Barnett, has put a name forward. So I believe we should put someone forward. In reading some of the correspondence associated with it, I'm not sure where it come from, but it was pointed out two cost figures, one for this and one for the Darwin thing, which I think is the next thing coming up. And my only concern is I don't think they should have, either should have anything to do with the other, because if we do that sort of thought and we are entitled to send 2 or 3 people on the other one and say, oh no, we can't do that because we've sent someone on this one, then I don't think that's right. So when we get to that stage, my thought is 2 entirely different things. I think it's very important that we have roles for different people, particularly women, to learn, and I believe, like Christina does it, most probably the only bit, is earlier days where most councils were dominated by men, and they basically took the role. If you have a look at our old pictures there, the only ones that look like it is a bloke that hasn't got a beard. So I think we've come a long way, but it's definitely not an end road. So, well, you know, I've seen the pictures out there, so I'll stick with that. So I'm happy, and I know Christina takes a lot of effort her stuff at council, and not saying actually with regards to just women's roles against men's roles, she takes a very active role in the whole council setup and people talking. So next time, we've got a couple other women sitting on our council, some men, that maybe we should look at others, but right now I'm very happy to support or move for Councillor Barnett to be on it.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Barnett, do you respect it?
Yeah, so I would say that particular organisation was probably one of the reasons that gave me the confidence to stand. So I attended one of their information sessions. So they do a lot of good work. I don't know if Christine's quite active in that. But like Alan said, maybe in years to come it might be something that other councillors may present themselves for. But as long as it doesn't jeopardise any other training opportunities for other council members. I don't think it will. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
The training budget?
Yes.
Given,
yes.
So will this adversely affect the training budget for this year for any of the planned activities that we've currently got?
So, yeah.
Yeah, through in there, as was discussed at the workshop, we have around $32,000 for training. It is a budget allocation, a bucket of for general training. Should we get to a point where elected members have absorbed that money, we would simply go through a budget variation process. If we consider training is important and necessary, then that should be provided for by the organisation. So, in answer to your question, there is a budget limit. That budget limit is set at the moment, but can be varied at any time by council through the budget variation process.
So part of the question was, would this compromise any of the plans you currently have to expand that budget? Is that right?
Sort of. I was just wondering if it's actually capped per member. So, you know, it isn't. Right.
Let's see, I answered the original question. Does this impede any of the planned activities you've got?
Through Mayor, I don't believe it will impede any of the planned training.
Thank you. Any further, Councillor Barnett? No? Any further speakers to the item? No? Perhaps if I just chip in. I mean what I said at the workshop. We find training opportunities that are relevant to local government. We should be going on them, not just new people, but people who've been around. Well, Christina's been in local government for a long time. All of us need to be freshened up, motivated, inspired. The agenda looks really good. And I encourage you to find opportunities like that at some stage during the term, or we will find them, and please, I'd like you to go. You will need to take some leave from your job to go, and that's what your allowance is there to cover, because there's no payment for your lost time from us, of course. It is you do make a contribution by going on those things, but they are really, really valuable. So I absolutely support it. Any further debate? Councillor Harris, wish to sum up?
Yes, well, supporting it, the one thing I just wanted to continue to point out, particularly, and I am directing this at the newer councillors in particular at this stage, that this should in no way put anyone off on the next round for the Darwin conference, because I believe people should learn from other councils. So I'm asking people to support this, and it would be good if a council all votes for it to say we support it.
As it concludes the debate, thank you for the suggestion. All those in favour? Against? Please. Carried. Unanimous.
Down there, sure.
Dr. Barroso, councillor.
Thank you very much.
Make sure you come back. And it was unanimous. Councillor. Congratulations. All right, 19, yeah, it was forming here. 19.5, yeah, that last night. All the way to right, okay. Repairs on the night. Speaking of repairs, 19.5, Upload Repair, Prospect Road, recommendation on page 1955. And I've withdrawn it for a question to the Director, noting that this recommendation says we require a budget variation to fund it, but the very next item, California Street, in my view, exactly the same. It's a repair of something that's, well, anyway, that doesn't require a budget variation. It's just noted as you're just going to get on and do it. They're both of very similar value. I would have thought California Street is actually not broken. It's just not built properly. But the lights are broken and therefore need repair more than, like, it's probably debatable. But what was the logic in saying this one had to have a budget variation and the other one just sails through the keeper?
To the Mayor, I guess, to your question. It was really that we have got a budget for LATM traffic calming devices. At the moment, the feedback that we do have at hand from North Street and Salisbury Terrace residents is they don't want traffic control devices installed in those streets. So it was assumed that this was a very important installation as far as traffic calming was concerned on California Street. So we thought that that council would be supportive, in particular when we have got a budget there at the moment. Because the surplus is because people in North and Salisbury don't want installations.
Sorry, Director, the money we've set aside in Port Hardcore is for new traffic management. So that in my view, how does that give you the right to spend it on fixing an old thing? That's a maintenance item. I would still want to see a new traffic management thing, or that budget come back to us as a saving. But to answer my original question, how come this repair needs a budget variation, but the next item as a repair doesn't need a budget variation in principle? Is it simply because you've got some budget you can hide that one in, and this one you don't?
It's not about hiding it to you, the Mayor. The lighting upgrade absolutely has no budget. I was assuming that this was a very important rectification piece of work, so we were going to use the LATM traffic calming budget, which I explained earlier. So I'm more than happy to change the recommendation if the elected members want to do that, for it to reflect exactly what the lighting upgrade recommendation is.
Thank you. Anybody wish to move it in its current form? Yes, I don't think I could do it.
Do you move it, then we can discuss it?
Yep.
Okay, I'll move it then. All right. I need to...
Councillor Bowman, happy to move. Do you wish to speak to us?
Yeah, I would actually. Just in regards to reading through the budget, we weren't able to get any of that money back from the suppliers, the project managers, or anyone involved. Is that correct?
I'll take that question. Director, can you perhaps explain the process you've been through?
Yeah, through the Mayor, the process that we've been through, we've tried to get all parties involved around the table to rectify. Unfortunately, they won't commit. They basically said it's out of warranty. It's a bit of a blame game. We went through the practical completion process, and unfortunately we're held responsible for the repairs from now on. It is an unfortunate situation, but we've exhausted all avenues. We've even sought the scheme, as far as our insurer, to see if they could provide assistance, but they can't on this occasion.
Thank you.
Are we currently or looking to in the future use any of those contractors in any of the future work?
Yeah, through the Mayor, we do go through a proper procurement process, which we go out to tender, and absolutely some of these contractors will bid for the work, but we have a matrix which we rate contractors.
One of those two, probably.
So through that criteria, that could be weighted accordingly.
Yeah. And just one more thing on that. In regards to best practice for these kind of things, when installing these kind of products, could it be warranted to install things that are already proven instead of just going by a product? So, for example, if you're looking at an uplight that's actually been used in another council area or another state, and it's proven to be working for 10 years, and they've got a maintenance record that we could look at?
Through the Mayor, most definitely. This is a very new project for Prospect, new players in this domain, and there have been a lot of learnings from this project, absolutely.
Further, Councillor Bowman in support of the motion. You can get a chance to sum up. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Barnett, wish to speak to it?
I think it's one of these learning projects that we seem to have to go through, and then we're wiser at the end of the whole process. So, yeah, and certainly so it can be discussed further.
Thank you. I'll talk to this one. Obviously, I've got a bit of interest in it. Councillor Barnett, I think you were on the committee, or the little group around this with Councillor Dixon and myself, working through the project. Who was on it?
No, I don't know.
No, you're on the terrific Prospect.
I'm on the terrific one. I'm not applied enough.
No, there was a little project team formed with the director, Justin Commons, to make sure the project pushed along and we got the best out of it. These lights were in the original design as part of providing more interest and activity along the street. They light up walls. They're supposed to light up the side of Tempest. They're supposed to light up the side of the Commonwealth Bank, so they form a bit of an entry statement on the way in. There's 3 along those walls. There's 3 along the laneway by the old travel shop. They're under every tree in the median strip, and they're under some of the trees on the footpath. They have been a bit of a problem from the start, but only minor problems during the defects liability process, and they've successfully failed, pretty much all of them, since that time, unfortunately. So clearly, wrong fitting or wrong installation, very hard to determine. But what's happened is we've spent $100,000 on lighting for the street, for the design to work, and this part of it has failed. And what I keep getting hammered by a couple of residents about, my rates have paid for that and you can't fix them. You keep siliconing them up, or you put tin over one of them, you keep pulling them out. Well, that's not good enough for my rates. And I think that's a fair argument. We've also invested quite heavily in the lighting component of the street and we've had two issues. One is these lights are failing and not being fixed, and the second is that pulse lights, some of the little chips in the bottom have failed and they've now been temporarily replaced with a circuit that just changes the colour constantly, which I find it just goes completely against the integrity of the artwork and the artist's intention. And I really want that to be fixed as well. I understand the staff are working hard on that, but it's kind of a year now that that's been in place. So I want us to get on top of this. I want us to get the street back to what people paid for. I'd really like us to have been able to get stuck into some of the costs, but the staff have, over a period of several months, have exhausted every opportunity to do so, other than taking somebody to court and seeing if we can be successful. For those of you who've been involved in the court process, we know that this amount is an annoying amount. You'd easily spend this just getting to the steps of court, and you could lose. So that's not a good use of ratepayers' money. So it's something where, if you want to get it done, we have to now get on with it, having exhausted almost every other avenue to do so. I'd like to have this done ready for Terrific because it's a nighttime event. These lights really work well. I'm not sure directly whether that's possible. Can I ask that question? If we decide tonight to do this, when can it be?
Through the mayor, I can't give you that answer straight away, but we will anticipate to get to that date. But I can provide you a memory.
I contribute that.
Yeah, it might be.
But all the wiring's in place. It should be a matter of pulling the fitting in the paver and popping it in and popping it back. The conduits are there if the wiring's no good. So, but in my view, it's an embarrassment to us that it's not up to snuff. It's our design. I'm proud of what we've achieved. It's now won, I think, 7 or 8 awards for the street, obviously judging the lights are mostly working. And I think it's just something that we should maintain in its design state. Otherwise, something like that, it's easy to just not do this and not do something else, not do something else, and in 10 years' time, that council has to spend a huge amount of money to bring the street back up to something that's acceptable. So that's my view. Councillor Harris, then Evans and Group.
Yeah, taken on board, particularly the last bit you said. I'm going to support it because I'm totally opposed to it. 31,000, my knowledge is roughly about a roundabout that we maybe could have used somewhere in the streets and all that. But to take your last couple of paragraphs, as why I'm going to speak for it and support it, is because we have a product there. It was not working, and I was going to get to the pulse lights, which you already got to, because we got that one crook. I think we just a while ago fixed up the rusty prospect up the end, and a couple of nights I've gone past, I haven't seen lights there, so I don't know if they're supposed to be working yet.
They are, yeah.
They are. Must have been, I know I don't drink anymore, but I must have been sitting in the back part of a car because I missed it. But my reason for supporting it and changing it is exactly that last paragraph. We got these things, they're there to do something. Let's get them back. I'd like to see those gun nuts, you know, and you don't like to tell people they're gun nuts anymore because then they'll keep looking at it and see the lights aren't working like they're supposed to. So we've got a street, we've done a lot of effort, previous council more so than even the last council and this council, done a heck of a lot of effort to get it. Your department, yourself, done great things to do things for. And, oh, can we use a swear word there? The things that are just sitting there, not working, and you know, you can't even breathe tadpoles on because they don't hold water on the top, they soak inside. So please, let's go ahead, let's change the budget, and at least let's try and get some things working.
Councillor Evans.
Thanks. And through the chair, just a question for the director. Is this going to fix the problem, or are we going to be doing this again in a year's time?
Well, question, Director.
Through the mayor, I've been assured by the relevant authorities that this will fix the problem because we will be using a sealed system, and further to that, if you have read the report, we've included a 5-year warranty, which is a very good option indeed.
Thank you. Councillor Evans, anything further?
No, that was all.
Look, thank you. This is obviously really frustrating, I think, for everyone. There's no doubt about it. What concerns me is we're spending probably close to $100,000 financial year on lights and repairs for lights, and it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and you know, we have to defend that publicly. And I'm struggling to find a way to defend publicly notwithstanding what the mayor said, I think it's definitely spot on. It's every part of the design, but the road is less than 3 years old. Not $30,000. 30% of the total lighting budget to the road, we're reinvesting or wasting or however you want to see it. So $1,000 a light seems like a lot of money for one little down light that kind of pops up. And notwithstanding that you've gone through the procurement process, so that's what the price is. I just had a process question on there. The recommendation is that a budget variation be included in budget review 2. Does that give the authority to spend the money, or does that authority not happen until we approve budget review 2?
Question.
Because I'm thinking that's not actually giving anyone permission to spend anything. Because I might support it going to the budget review, but my thinking at this point is I'd like to see what else is in that budget review and how that may be down with the budget before actually making a decision on it. So I just want to make sure we don't go ourselves in knots.
Yeah, well, I think the intention of the director's offer trying it done by Terrific was that he takes us get on with it, but it's a good question. CEO?
Through the Mayor, maybe it would be worth clarifying that, and maybe add some more words to this recommendation, that the director be instructed to progress with the works and that the budget variation be included within the budget review process. Just to be really clear, otherwise it is going to be simply that we just include it as a variation item and wait until it's agreed to. So it is a correct.
What's just the timing on that? CEO, when would that get done?
Through the chair, it's coming to you in February workshop and then February.
So end of February we'd make it, if we left it as it was, make a decision. And director, when would that mean you actually get it completed?
Through the chair after that.
Yes. Any idea how long after getting an instruction if you could reliably say it'll be done? Will it be a month?
Well, I don't have that at hand, but I can provide you that information, whether it's 2 weeks or 4 weeks. We'll give you a full timeline as far as the installation.
Certainly not by Terrific. Okay.
It won't be quick.
Thank you, Councillor Group.
Sorry, just so trying to be a bit clearer. If we did approve the funding tonight, though, there's still no guarantee it will be done by Terrific. Is that right? There'll be no guarantee that it will be done by the Terrific.
Through the Mayor, no, there is no guarantee it will be done by Terrific. Absolutely.
Look, I'm happy to test the Forefront Amendment to authorize the spending. As much as I don't want to support it, it's one of those that I don't know we have much of an option because we're otherwise going to have 34 holes in the ground that are pretty useless. And it is, notwithstanding whether it should be or shouldn't be, it is our premier strip in the city, and so it is very important that we get it right. I do it reservedly. But I'm happy to put an amendment
Staff be instructed to replace 34 uplights.
Is that open on that?
Oh, pretty good. As per above, we can cut and paste that, I think. And then the second item would therefore be the budget variation of 31. Set of staff with CEO.
Yes, no.
And then phone number. Nearly there. Patient child. Remove the words in
He came down to see the lights and wanted nappies and lights. That's what he wanted.
Councillor, that's the intention of what you were seeking to amend it to?
I wouldn't mind paying by the Terrific event, but that's probably unrealistic.
Well, no, you can have that with and to be installed by Terrific Prospect if possible.
Well, let's do that.
You have that?
At a year.
Possible.
Yeah.
So you're happy with that? I'll now ask the mover. Councillor Bowman, are you happy with that slight adjustment? Councillor Bowman as mover?
Councillor Sanders wants to speak.
I'm just going to deal with this first and we can have a speaker. But as the mover, are you happy to incorporate that as a change to the motion? If not, I can...
For me.
Okay. So what as per the last one we did, you can choose to amend the motion, which needs a mover and a seconder of the amendment, and we debate the amendment. If it gets up or not. If it gets up, it becomes the motion. We also have the liberty of changing the motion itself with the permission of the mover and the seconder, because it's the mover and seconder's motion. So in this instance, even though the staff have written up the papers and it's gone to the public and whatever, you have moved it, therefore it's your motion. Okay? So if you're happy with the alternate words, as the chair, I can ask you, if you're happy with that, then I will then ask the seconder. If the seconder is happy, then I seek leave of the meeting to change the motion to these different words. And then that becomes the motion. We don't need an amendment process. It's just quicker. And for things that do what we all think should be done from a procedural point of view, or it's a minor change, it might be one word changes sometimes, it's usually a quicker method.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm going to say something. I move it.
You can only say yes or no,
okay.
As to whether you're happy to accept those alternate words instead of the words that you moved.
Okay. So I'm happy to accept those words.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Barnett, you indicate you're happy. And I think leave of the meeting. We accept those alternate words. All those in favour? Against now become the motion. Okay. So back to you, Councillor Groot, to now keep debating, but obviously the new ones.
Yeah. What a great amendment, let me say. Look, as I said, I don't think we're in a good position to have to do this. I'm really concerned that when we get budget variation too, that there's more and more pressure being put on us. We've already referred to a couple of things that put pressure on the budget. If we continue at the rate we're going into the first two council meetings, we're going to be in all sorts of trouble by February. And so that's just my nervousness about it. We've got another one yet to do with in the next item as well. So yeah, I'll support this point of motion. I think we have to do it. I don't want to vote for it, but I don't think we have much of an option. It does take me back to some other conversations the previous council had around project management principles and making sure these things are actually sorted at the construction phase or when things are installed or when we're planning. And we do seem to make a couple of these sort of areas that come back and bite us a bit later on. This one's probably unforeseen, but I just think it lessons in here for when we do our next major project, whatever that might be. So I will support it. We do need to do it, but I'm doing it, I guess, somewhat professionally.
Any further speakers? Councillor Stan.
Yeah, I'd like to speak just a little bit to this. I think it's disappointing that these have only lasted the time that they have. I mean, considering they're LEDs and LEDs should last a whole lot longer than that, and the fact that we can't get any recourse on getting any of the money back. I take note Councillor Groot's point of going to the community and saying, okay, we're going to spend another $30,000 and how do we justify that? I think maybe there's one way that we could do it. I've always been disappointed that they're on during the day. And through the Mayor, is there a reason that they're on during the day, considering they can't be, maybe a question to the Director?
Question to somebody? CEO?
Through you, Mayor, as I understand it, it's the, not the up lights that are on during the day, it's the other lights that we have, pulse lights. They are able to be turned into nighttime only. However, there are often days when they're quite visible. And so the general consensus was that it should be 24/7, but we can adjust them to nighttime only if that's the desire of the council. The up lights, I think, are just nighttime only.
Yep.
So just further to answer that, so as I understand it, we had a lot of trouble with the pulse lights in the first 6 months, and we had them on a timer, which was on and off. And one of the suggestions that came back, given that no one else has done it ever before, was stop switching them on and off. Since we've kept them on, they haven't broken down as much. 2 have completely failed, but the other ones that were intermittent haven't been so. Whether that's the solution, I don't know, but that was actually a recommendation from the technicians.
Fair enough. I've just noted the lights on all the time. I mean, we have a desire to be a sustainable council. I think we've got to walk the talk and have the lights off during the day. They look fantastic. They look fantastic at night. I think they make a mockery of what we're doing if they're on during the day. So, but I think we have no choice to actually let this money go through. I mean, what other choice we have? I think the point was 34 holes in the ground, which is not acceptable either.
Further debate? Hang on. you have a right of reply at the end. So I have to conclude everybody else. And then, if there's no one else who wants to speak, we'll come back to you for the summing up. And in that summing up, you are meant to restate the points that you made or respond to what other people have said. You are not entitled to introduce new material into that. That's the rules. Councillor Barnett showed you how not to do it a minute ago, but anyway. Councillor Lalloway.
This is a more general question as to the process of a budget variation. Can I ask that now, or is that?
Yes. Yeah.
So does this, I understand what a variation means in the context of what I do at work, but in the context of this, does this mean that there's a budget that's been set and we're saying we need $31,000 more, so we can't just go and get that from somewhere that doesn't, so we have to get that from somewhere else that it's been allocated to already. So if that's the case, so is that the case?
We'll ask that question. Just
through the chair, that is the case. Instead of rock, paper to paper, this budget variation impact will be on council's budget. We have to come up with 31,000 more funds to pay for this project. So variations are all the positive and negative. So there are also savings. So the budget variations that are about to come to you, there are some savings. So through the savings, we may be able to fund it without any additional funding. So that is the variation amount.
So it's not possible to get additional funding because how do you get additional funding?
Through the chair, council can approve additional funding. So if our budget has been set for 23 million, if there's a project of 100,000, council can approve now to spend 23 million, 100,000.
So I think your question is we can't go into another rates bill out.
I understand that. So yeah, I just want to understand where
that
moves
from. It will be funded through borrowing or through savings from other areas.
Okay. Yeah. And so when you're talking about savings, what's the decision-making process around how you might save money? And what's where that savings comes from?
The savings could be through efficiencies or could be through some budget adjustments or could be through variation in certain projects that resulted or procurement, economy of scale that result in savings.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that something else that's been budgeted to happen will no longer happen?
Yeah.
Well, we can make that choice, Councillor.
Correct.
So the staff will come up with operational savings. As in we tendered something that we thought would cost 600 grand, but it only cost 550.
Yep.
Here's a 50 grand saving. Or we could direct them to not do something which saves money.
Okay.
So,
right, let's clear that up. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Bowman to sum up. Should you see the need?
Should I see the need?
Yes. You don't have to speak at the end.
I better not. I'll just say one thing, you can tell me to sit down. It seems like that was, if I am correct, this was the only option given to us. 31,617. There didn't seem to be another option presented where we filled some of them up with concrete and have higher lights, so to speak. But in, I guess, listening to a few people's concerns, I guess the, yes, we want to carry through the streetscape as designed, but we want assurances that we're not going to be in the same position in 12 months' time. We are fighting gravity with having things on the ground, and with the failure, it wasn't actually told what percentage was vandalism and what percentage was actual product failure, because that may affect the decision of councillors to replace ground level lights. And that's all I will say.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. The thing is moving, you're the only one who voted against it, but that's very good of you to get it on the floor. And just to clarify, the two questions are good questions, but I can't take the questions during summing up. So, lesson for everybody, if you've got questions and you want to move, you've got to do it in your initial speech as the mover, so it's best to kind of come prepared. And I kind of do allow a bit of flexibility to ask questions before I ask for a mover, so that's the other way to do it. Yeah. I'll do some summing up. Okay, the next item is 19.6, California Street Traffic Control Devices, page 1959. I pulled it out. Councillor Harris, just a brief reason why you pulled it out.
I pulled it out to, no doubt in the end, move it. but I also, when I'm going to do that, I got a couple of questions first.
So a couple of brief questions.
Okay, first, and I've read the report, and during the report we talk about east and west, and my only concern, I didn't have time to ring someone, when we're talking east and west, are we talking the one this end of the street called west, and the one that end of the street called east? So not just east and west? Yeah, he's nodded. So
through the mayor, yes.
okay. That one, and then you've raised the other question. So I'll move it.
Okay, as the mover, you should speak to it.
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, I think it's a while coming, this one, that we got to this stage, and I'm concerned when we go through some things, and it comes to many of the figures we got in here, and 65 smallest, 100 the biggest. We've got 25, so there's a couple of bad spots, so there's no question. But even through the report, the so-called good spots, the good heights, are on the bottom end of the scale. So I'm not personally happy with that, but there's a massive difference between, now I know which one's which, between the east one, which is further down California Street out in front of number 62, I think, and the west one. Now, my concern that was raised by Councillor Barnett when she answered someone, which went down a trap, if people have gone through and looked at it, it now comes to the real concern of me of passing it. The block on the southern side, its house has been knocked down and it's going to be redeveloped. And if you look on the thing, and I haven't looked at any plans because I couldn't get hold of it, and there's two house things or units or whatever, but two buildings going to go on there. One, absolutely no problem because you come out the normal driveway and it misses the chicane altogether, it comes through. The other one comes through a little hallway that's opposite the house that had quite a few concerns. It's right smack in the middle of it. Now, if that house gets, and this is my concern about fixing it, particularly bringing the correct height that should happen, and I don't really want it to go on hold, but I'm reluctant. We got trucks going in and out there to be able to fit through that hole, which would only be 2 metres, a little bit more, the little hole that will fit a car. But any vehicle movement is going to be driving over the product we're building, you know, the product we're going to correct and all that sort of stuff. So I'm reluctant about putting it off another X time, but I can see a heck of a lot of damage going to be done, particularly if that house gets done second, the one near the main road. If the other one gets done second, they can use their driveway and just drive in. If that one gets done first, we're going to do a lot of damage to the product. I'm still saying go ahead in my mind because it needs that fixing, but I'd like the staff to really think of that, to that hole that comes through. And my last point, even though I'm supporting it, is the cost that comes, and we just went through it with that one, the fact of the possibility of the money we can use to do it will be used in possible, as you said, the savings of North Street or Sainsbury Terrace, those sort of ones, which to actually back what the Mayor said, I'm very reluctant of that because those monies have been put there to create new things, and if we start paying the old things for the new things, then we don't get new things. And so I'm reluctant. I'm feeling we should, if we have to pay for it, it should be there. So I'm going to finish there, but one last point is when we went for our ride, and we had a look at this, and most of you, I think all of you were there, and so was the staff. I'm very thankful to Greg and the people that we finally got to this stage now that it's recognising something's going to be happening. Very happy. But I believe that Poleron should be looking for others, particularly 3rd Avenue, McGuinness Avenue, and others around that I'm sure that are either on the bottom level and this will be a thing. But any of this repairs, or picks up, or whatever terminology I'm going to use, I'm hoping we don't do the bottom end of the scale. If it's got to be between 85 and 100, let's not do 65 to 85. You know, let's get it up to that 100 or to that 80, you know, whatever that top scale is. So I recommend people to support it, but please keep in mind some of those other things I've said are reply and me to speak.
Okay, thank you. Got a seconder?
Oh, yeah, I'll second it.
Councillor Stanton, wish to speak to it?
I do. I'm a little bit perplexed by this. I think what we're trying to do here is not actually do anything for the community. I think we're just trying to follow a procedure that's been missed. The one thing that I've found from the data that we've been provided here is that the device works. It has reduced the volumes by 20% and reduced the speeds by 11%. So even though it is defective by the standards that have been set with heights, the device has still done its job. And what it's done is it proved maybe that the devices don't have to be as fierce or as uncomfortable or encroaching or they don't have to be as like they are. This one has done its job and is still, I've driven it over quite a few times, it's still actually not, it's still comfortable to go over. The thing that happens with these devices is that once everyone goes away, once all the rat runners move, the devices are left with the people who, they're left with the residents who have no choice to go over them. The 1,700 residents a day, or 1,700 cars that go over there, that surely if they had any other way, they would go a different way. So these are people who are left with the devices after they've done their job, which is to move the rat runners on to slow speeds down. So I have no understanding why we would just slavishly just create a ditch in the road when the device is working. I understand that we're going to, it's out of code. I understand that there's money there to be done, but I just think it's slavishly doing something that will, it's a legacy of misery for no other reason, and I think it's mean-spirited, if nothing else. And I think the 1,700 residents a day are going to absolutely hate us for doing it, because all the job has been done. The rat runners are gone. Everyone's moved away. And I just don't understand why we're even doing it. I think, conversely, we should actually be retrofitting the other two humps or the chicanes that are in California Street. I think we should be retrofitting the western one. I will not be supporting this. I think it's $25,000 that we do not need to spend.
Further speakers? Councillor Lowe.
I agree with Councillor Stanton. It seems to have done its job, so I'm not quite sure, unless I'm misreading the information there. So I don't think I'll be supporting it either.
Councillor Lee, then, mate.
It's my understanding we're only noting a report. We're not actually voting to do this or not do this. Is that correct?
Question I'll take to the Director. Technically, you're right.
Through the Mayor, as discussed earlier, we can change that recommendation if the elected member body feel the need. But you're absolutely right, it is to be noted.
And sorry, at this stage, this is interesting. At this stage, you're just going to do it, and we're noting that you're doing it. So, in effect, if we don't want it to happen, we have to instruct you not to do it. So instruct the CEO not to do it. Councillor Lee, back to you.
No, I was just getting a sense that people think that we're voting to spend the $25,000, but that's in the report. It's saying that we are voting. The $25,000 has already been designated, delegated, whatever. The only thing that we're doing at the moment is to note the report. So there's no action from us except to say, okay, we've read it, we note it. We're not actually voting on anything to be done. So if anybody wants to do something differently, they need to do something about it.
How do we do that?
Yes, I think what we're seeing from this report that many of you will be sending emails that have gone backwards and forwards for over a year with the residents in the western end that lives on the northern aspect of it, trying to get this fixed up because one of the main reasons is the noise factor that when especially trucks go over this one, they have their bedrooms facing close to the road, and so it's been a real bugbear, nightmare, whatever, for this particular resident. Also, this may be question that needs to be followed up with planning. At that western area, it's the house, the original house being demolished. It's waiting for development. Now we assumed that it's going to be developed. There's been planning application approved, but then who knows if it's going to be built or whatever. But what then happens, and I think this is something we need to perhaps note for further discussion, is I can't recall what the actual plan is for that particular northern block. And so what is going to happen? Are we going to be spending $25,000, which the residents on the northern side desperately wants to happen? Or are we then going to come back when this housing plan, development plan comes before us and they say, oh, we can't get in and out of our house. We want it removed or whatever. So I'm still unclear on that.
Is that a question you're posing?
I would like that matter
expressing
through the chair. I would like that matter followed up by the appropriate director. Yes, what it is to work that one out. And I mean,
I believe.
yes. And I'm not sure if it's something that we need to look at further throughout the study about what happens. It looks like there's going to be more and more housing demolished and more other housing increased housing put on the blocks. Yes, so at this stage, because another frustration of the resident and his family, I'm going to vote for it.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, and through the Chair, a couple of questions, and I guess the first one is really, perhaps, Director, could you provide us with some background on how we've got to this stage? Reading the report, I understand there's been a complaint, there was action in 2009, and there's continuing complaints that's led to this series of actions that we're proposing, is that correct?
Yeah, through the Mayor, this was before my time, absolutely. Some of the staff that were involved with the construction of that device are no longer with us. They have moved on, and we did inherit this problem. But the complaints are coming from one particular family. The majority of the complaints have been coming from that particular family. That it's been an ongoing issue. It was brought to my attention, I can't remember, a few months ago to a year ago, and we've worked towards a resolution or providing some satisfaction to that particular family.
Thank you. Yeah, and through the Chair, just a supplementary question. So this is one family that's been complaining about it. One family and only one.
Councillor Director.
Yeah, through the Mayor, yes.
Well, I guess just on that basis, it seems like there's been action that's already been taken, and views from around the table seem fairly unconvinced that even this current situation will resolve the issue. It's $25,000. I'll be hesitant to support it on that basis unless there's some real information that suggests that it's going to have a meaningful benefit to the street as a whole.
Further speakers?
Interesting.
Councillor Harris?
Yeah, I'd like to clear it one. The director might have had one complainant for that particular house, and I've had the same, so I know what he's saying, but it's not one lot. It's quite a few people who have spoken to a massive difference of when we're talking east and west, that has been said by speakers before. The mistake that unfortunately one of the speakers made, we're not talking, and that was my question at the beginning, we're not talking the western side of that chicane and the eastern side of that same chicane. We're talking about the other one up the road. When we're talking about the residents driving through there and stuff and breaking down and slowing down, we're talking two working together. So right now, this motion is about one, it's on the eastern end, about number 21 or something like that, 19 and 21 where the big tree is, that has had none, and I might add, from day one I've been saying this, not just lately, and Greg is dead right, it was the previous people that built the thing and stuff like this, but we've done it for a purpose. The person at a certain house in the street, what they had been raising, they disagree a bit with the numbers, they disagree with a few things like that of going. When you drive through the western run, you slow down to drive through the western one, which is up the end by number 62. When you drive through the eastern one, you don't have to do anything. It goes click-click, so he gets that noise that makes the sound. You don't have to slow down, you don't have to do anything. Together is what created the slowing down of the street. And so why have we got one there? Reverend, how many people complain, why have we got one there that is not up to the standard, number one, and two, is not doing the job that it's supposed to do. So the report is noted. I should have read that. I was hoping we were going to do it, but I'm still adamant that it has to be fixed. It has to be fixed because it's in a main street, actually. California's a main street, because you can't get down Mine Balfour off the main North Road and things like that, or the others. It's the main street that people go to, plus the North Street's the other one, and Burwood, but it's a main thing, and it's an important thing. And why do we say to people, we've got this chicane here, this is doing the job, and it's not doing the job. And I'll tell you, later on I'll be raising the 3rd Avenue and McKinnon's one. But please, all we're doing is noting the report and then give us a chance to argue when or not that we've got this thing. It's a traffic hazard, the way it is, and forget that there's individuals that live there. The thing needs to be fixed. And it wasn't right in the first place, so why not what we supported the last one, it should be fixed. So I don't know how we can vote against the report being noted. Thank you.
Concludes the debate, and that is correct. That all those in favour of noting the report? All those against noting the report? So everybody has to vote. Can't arbitrarily decide not to vote because you're not sure. It's a yes or a no, or you don't have a pulse. That's kind of the third option. So I'll do that again. All those in favour of noting the report? All those against noting the report? The report is noted. It's carried. Thank you. And look, I think Councillor Lee did raise this before, and perhaps this is something for the staff to take on board. The staff already have this action happening. The Director simply asked us to note that he's got it under control, getting on with it, as we thought the sentiment of the Council was. The Director hasn't asked for us to say yes or no. Now, as CEO, I'm hearing the debate. That might not be adequate for what happens now. In terms of Council, if you don't want this to happen, you're going to have to move somewhere to not make this happen. And I won't accept that in general business, because that will need to be advertised publicly. Okay, so that's how I'll handle that. If you do want it to happen, then you can respond to that debate, or just wait, it'll be done. That's what the report says, it'll be done. Okay. See ya.
Yep, sorry, now just a point of clarification. The reason the report came on this matter, the reason it was just to be noted, is that the report was requested by Councillor Harris a while ago. Normally, we wouldn't be preparing a report unless it was asked for. So, just to be clear on it, that's slightly different to the previous report, which was an item that needed to be addressed. So, two different approaches being taken.
Okay, so on the Council diary, we've got the farmers markets again now to their second year. African twilight markets as well. Who hasn't seen the African twilight markets? Good, worth a look. Farmers market, the special Christmas one. Could you, again, if you're on Facebook and Twitter, can you make sure you use it to help people understand that it's not on the Thursday, it's on the Monday. Terrific prospect on the 19th of January. And obviously, I think has anyone not been to the Terrific Prospect before? You know how it works? There is a VIP area which you've got an invitation to. It is good for you to come along to that. We do invite every politician in South Australia to it. So every upper house, lower house, every federal MP and senator. So it is good for you to be there to entertaining them. Okay, it shouldn't just be me and one other person to share that burden. And it's a good chance for you to lobby them for the things that you think are important.
Who's got the inbox? Who's doing you?
Yeah, just Chris and me. The rest of you will be, you'll be outside the picket fence looking in, I presume. No, everybody should have an invite somewhere.
I don't have an invite.
So have you got out to everybody yet? Correct?
Sorry, Nathan, we get it.
Through the chair, they started being sent on Fridays.
Right, okay.
It's in the mail.
Mail, is that one?
Because we're on there.
I'm going to hand them out. Okay. They're coming, right? They're coming, don't panic.
I think I was washing my hands anyway.
Anyway, so make sure you make good use of it, tell your friends, book them in, and have a great night. Citizenship ceremony on the 27th of January, Tuesday the 27th. And we've had that discussion about that time frame. Please come along and make our initiatives feel welcome. General business, general business of an urgent nature. So the urgent confidential item, and we move on. Item 23.1, order to exclude related to Australia Day activities in the year awards. Recommendation of page 962. You wish to move exclusion, Councillor Group. Wish to speak to it, Councillor Barnett. Wish to speak to it. Anybody else wish to address the order to exclude? No. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. That closes the meeting. Thank you, councillors, for your diligence and service for the year of 2014.